Okay, 5 o'clock, so let's begin on time. We have an hour because I have another meeting, faculty meeting at 6 o'clock, and there is a class also that meets in this classroom. So we will try to get through all of these questions that you have very kindly sent, and I want to thank you for being here, for giving me the opportunity to answer your questions, for giving the faculty here the opportunity to ask questions. I'm going to introduce myself and then the faculty here very quickly, and then we can get on to the business of answering questions. So my name is Kalpana Mishra. I think some of you may know me already. I'm the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. I have met some of you in various capacities. We have to meet the Dean at the beginning of the academic year, and I think I may have seen some of you there, or you would have seen me. So anyway, that's about me. And then we have Professor John McNulty, who's the chair of the Psychology Department in the College of Arts and Sciences. Professor Stephen DeLue, who's president of the Faculty Senate and also Associate Professor of Law in the College of Law. Professor Teresa Valero, who's Director of the School of Art, Design and Art History. And then Professor Daniel Crunkleton, Professor of Chemical Engineering, also a member of the PPRC. And then Professor Miriam Belnika, Associate Professor in Anthropology, also member of the PPRC. Tracy Nanley, Professor of Accounting. She's the chair of the Provost Program Review Committee. And then Professor John Hale, Professor of Computer Science, also a member of the PPRC. Suzanne Stanton, who until recently was a member of the College of Arts and Sciences. Suzanne is now in the Oxford College of Health Sciences and Communication Disorders. So with that, let me just start out by pledging to you and pledging to you my commitment to the College of Arts and Sciences, to its interests, and to promise you that I am fully invested in the success of this college, in the health of this college, in the longevity of this college, and in the mission of this college. And so are our faculty here. It is very important for us to be the college that you want to graduate from. It is very important for us to be the university that you are proud of and will continue to be proud of. And we want to do the best by all of our students. And the reason why some of these decisions have been made is precisely to continue to have the university be known for excellence. Now, change is hard. It's hard for us, it's hard for you, it's hard for all of us, and change is never easy. And I don't want to stand here and lecture to you, so I want to keep this very brief, but I want to emphasize that the reason why we think about change in this kind of a context, because it is important for an organism or an organization to continue to evolve, to change, and to survive and to progress. And you see it around you. You are the generation that has seen the most change. You are the generation that has seen the most disruption. And so this is in a way, change is normal, and change is constant, and change doesn't have to be bad. What we need to do is to embrace change in a way where we can make it positive and make it work for us. So with that, I just want to start going over some of the questions you have. Some of those I will try to answer myself, and some of those my colleagues here will answer. If you have questions that come to you during the course of this meeting, please go ahead and email them to that address that I had sent you. There was a question that came in the last half an hour that I don't have on this printout, but if we have time, we'll go ahead and include that as well. So with that, I think we are ready to go. I have organized these questions according to the commonality of the themes. And so if you sent in your question 12 hours ago and I haven't got to it right at the very beginning, it's because it's probably part of another cluster. I do want to go through all of these questions. I do want to address all of your concerns. I do want to give you all of the information you need and provide all of the clarification that you seek. Okay, let me start with, someone had said, please don't skip any questions. I will not skip any questions. I will go through all of the questions. I may not have answers. We may not have answers for all your questions, but we will not skip anything. All right, current students. After the College of Arts and Sciences is reduced from its current departments into 4 broad divisions, what specific steps does the university plan to take to maintain the rigor and credibility of each discipline? So one of the things that I want to clarify at the outset is that disciplines are not going away. The programs are not going away. The departments coming into divisions is for the sake of administrative efficiency. Some of us are old enough. I myself have been at the university right now, I'm completing 31 years. I've seen at least 3 very big restructures in organizations. When I came, there was a School of Nursing that then became a department a department in the College of Business. There was a School of Education that is now a department in the College of Arts and Sciences. So those kinds of changes can take place. That does not undermine the rigor of a particular program. It doesn't undermine the character of a program. It doesn't hamper the disciplinary nature and character of a particular program. So the divisions will not take away the degree in political science. They will not take away the degree in sociology or music or economics. The divisions are merely meant to make things more efficient. In the college, we have great variation. We have departments of only 4 individuals, and then we have departments with about 15 individuals. While they are currently constituted, we have 15 departments. Each of them needs a chair. Each of them needs a departmental assistant. And with that come the stipends and the post releases for the chairs. And what we're trying to do here is to become more efficient and to cut costs in terms of having fewer individuals doing the kinds of things that are easily done and don't necessarily have to be done by 15 individuals. Now, actually, I should probably go through this because I'm thinking of some other questions you have. So the steps that the university is planning to take to maintain the rigor and credibility of each discipline, that does not change. If you are satisfied with the rigor of your discipline at this point of time, if you are happy with the quality and the credentials of your faculty, that does not change. So your programs, the rigor of the programs, the nature of the programs is not going to change. Those programs will still be here, except for the few that have been phased out that will be phased out because of either no enrollment at this point of time or really low enrollment. What this new organization will do, though, once the divisions move from disciplinary organization to the thematic divisions, at that point of time, a whole host of new possibilities will become possible for you. Now, as of now, or maybe ENS has started that, as of now, Arts and Sciences is the only college that has all of the degree programs that are advertised, plus the possibility of a self-designed major, which is to say, if you do not find in our listed majors the program that really meets your interests and your expectations, you can design a program. If we can offer it in terms of the existing curricula, in terms of the existing faculty expertise, we go ahead and provide you with that self-designed major, and we do that on a regular basis. What the thematic divisions will do and what the coming together of the divisions, whether they're discipline-based or later team-based will do is to give you the possibility of additional interdisciplinary majors where you can combine different disciplines, and that will become more routine rather than having individual sub-design majors for students. You will have the possibility to be able to think about multiple combinations with regard to interdisciplinary majors. So it's a plus, it's not a taking away, it's a plus. Having those thematic divisions, you will be able to avail of a much broader menu of degrees and programs. What impact will the new class minimum sizes have on the quantity and quality of ANS course offerings? So this is in multiple parts. I'll go ahead and start on.
Is it possible to interject just real quick?
Oh, you want to add?
Yeah,
sure.
I want to add. So I'm Stephen Gould. I'm Associate Professor of Law. Before coming here, I was at UC Berkeley, where I got my PhD from the Jurisprudence and Social Policy program at Berkeley, which is an interdisciplinary department or program involving sociologists, historians, political scientists, economists, and philosophers. So most of my academic training outside of law is in philosophy. And I think that I have always felt that I have a different perspective on a lot of the questions that I study than many of my other contemporaries who have just straight philosophy PhDs. I'm able to see aspects of the problems that I study because I've been exposed to these other approaches that other people haven't. Or can't see, or maybe can't see quite as easily. And I think the rigor of a program that we offer at the University of Tulsa is just a function of the rigor of the people who are involved. And everything that we've done in this process is about supporting that. And so I think it's a really exciting possibility to replicate the kind of broad understanding of problems across disciplinary perspectives.
Does anyone want to add to that?
Yeah, I'd say that, when you talk about rigor, it's a function of people who are involved, multiplied by the attention they're able to give to it. And so that's kind of the whole point by, some of this reorganization is to allow us to focus greater attention on those programs where we see opportunities for student success.
Another thing too is that the 4 thematic areas that were in the presentations, if the faculty and students in arts and sciences think that there may be 4 other thematic areas that might fit more the research specialty, those 4 areas are not written in stone, right? This is a process. If you think other areas might better fit what the research interests are, then let's do it, right? We're not trying to force anybody into these 4 pillars.
Yeah, it's important to remember that those divisions aren't the new degrees. They're just clusters, and they can grow and they can evolve, and that's the whole point of all this. I'm trying to make sure I can see everybody and also not fall off the stage. Okay. What impact will the new class minimum sizes have on the quantity and quality of ANS course offerings? Very little. Most of you who are in arts and sciences know that your classes are already very, very small and that we never really ever cancel classes. The only times that we cancel classes is when a class may have, fewer than 3 to 4 students, and we need another class in that same discipline to be offered at the lower level that has more students waiting to get into the class. So what we will do with these new minimum sizes is that we will have some kind of a guiding framework by which we know that this particular class has hit a certain level. The class will not be cancelled, but we will be able to utilize that number to see whether or not it satisfied the equivalent of one class for a particular faculty member. So, for instance, again, you understand the fairness of this as well as students, as individuals. You can have one faculty member teaching courses that have multiple students and teaching up to 120 students one semester. And then you can have another faculty member with 4 students in one class, 5 students in the second class. If they're teaching 2 that semester, that's it. If they're teaching 3 that semester and they have another 15 and another one, then you can see how it compares to one individual who's got over 100 and one individual who's got possibly between 20 to 25 or even less. So what we're trying to do is to be fair to faculty. So classes will not be cancelled, but the number of students would count the way, and that's the other thing. Up until now, when we as faculty teach independent studies, we do that without being recognized as part of our overload. I, as dean, because I don't offer regular courses, I do independent studies for students who want to do a class with me, but cannot because I'm not offering a regular class. So faculty do that all of the time. This way what will happen is if they have a smaller class, then the 6 or 8 or 10 students, according to a formula, will count for the faculty members' teaching load at that point in time. Erin?
Yeah, I just want to add a few things I think that are maybe not as understood. So first of all the levels of current caps on classes will not go into effect until we teach out the programs.
Yes.
So the
That
thing
was a
is,
separate
if
question.
currently we have a degree that has 3 seniors in it, and they need for the fall or for the spring or rising seniors to have a class with 3 students, they will have a class with 3 students, the professors will not be penalized, the students will not be penalized, it will not affect anything. All the courses and programs, and when I say a program, I mean BA in economics, okay? BS in psychology. That's a program, not the department, but the programs that persist. Basically, we're going to work through and both the quantity and quality. The second thing that I'd like to reiterate is that the problems of what if a professor works 4 courses a semester, or 3 or 2, it's between him, her, and their dean and the provost. The students don't really need to get involved, as far as I'm concerned, with whether I'm teaching 3 courses or 4 courses, if I'm teaching 5 students or 6 students. It's important that I maintain, as faculty, a rigor, as we talked about before, but also a small enough class size that I can give individual attention to each one of my students. And we're not raising the caps so high, turning it into a, people said, I can just read on, OU, that have 200 students in class. We're going from numbers of 32 to 40. Okay? That's what we're talking about. That's not going to change the quality of education.
And in this college, since this is an Arts and Sciences meeting and my Associate Dean, Dr. Reed, is also here, in this college, our classes are already small for most of our majors. So those kinds of recommendations are for the university as a whole, and they do precisely what Dr. Delmaker said. In engineering and natural sciences, there are larger classes, and that's what we are trying to do. We're trying to bring down those big classes for those students who have to be in classes of 60 and 80. That's where, so we're actually bringing the caps down. For this college, our cap, our biggest class, is 33 in the general curriculum. Now I know our faculty do in certain disciplines like the principals, econ principals classes, because they are required courses in the econ major and in the business school and some of the engineering majors, those fill very quickly. And so those faculty agree to overload their courses because students are asking them. Those are the only circumstances in which we overload those classes. The caps for those are always at 33. Typically, given the student bodies, given the number of times we offer a particular class, and given the large number of offerings we have, in our block courses we have anything from 10 to 15 students to up to, as I said, 33. And sometimes for econ courses that can go up to 35. I will also say, Dr. Bellmaker talked about the classes we are teaching out. That is one thing that of course we pledge to do. But as a college, if a graduating senior needs a class, we make sure we provide it, whether it's for 2 students or for 3 students. If you come to me, if that comes to my attention, that is what we try to do. Currently in education, we have students in classes, some of the classes where we have 3 or 4 students in that class. And so that is what we try to do, and that is what we aim to do. If it comes to my attention, if you come to me and say you want a class and you need it to graduate, we will either try to overload a class if something else is not available, or we will go ahead and let you have that class in a way that satisfies your requirement. Someone else want to make a Are you aware that the majority of upper level classes in my major fall beneath that minimum? I think we answered that. Additionally, how do you expect students and professors to react when their classes that do not meet the new minimum requirements are cancelled 1 week before term starts? That too I answered. We're not cancelling classes. We're just looking at them in a different way. So, yes.
Whose word do we need to take? Because the document that is presented, it says that there is a 10-person minimum and it will be canceled the week before the term begins. So do we
And this has already been done to ancient Greek.
Do we believe you guys up here, or do we believe the document that they point to whenever we have questions?
So ancient Greek, I canceled that class because I'm turning it into an independent study, which is what I say. I don't have
Which the professor does not
individual
get paid or
students.
compensated for.
I'm sorry?
Which the professor does not get paid or
No,
compensated
no.
for.
At this point of time, yes. Because the other thing is that professor is a professor who's also teaching Latin, where the numbers are very small, and so he is able to teach the Greek as well as the Latin. But that's the dilemma. That's the dilemma when we have such small groups. Where do we find enough faculty? And those are the kinds of trade-offs that we're doing.
I want to answer specifically to you about saying, what do you believe? If you read the document very carefully, it also says that if the class falls below the minimum, it can either be canceled or the professor can teach these 3, 4 students or 5 students as independent studies, and which the professor will be compensated by according to a formula. So the thing is, when you're talking about these things, it's very important to read the document very
I read the
carefully.
document very carefully, but
I believe
appreciate
you.
your concern. But I was just asking for clarification.
I just clarified it.
Thank
Let me clarify, hold on. Let me clarify one more aspect of this. So the document that you're reading is not, it does not directly apply during this transitional period, right? We are working out the mechanics of what Dr. Manley talked about that right now, actually.
So I was able to meet today with all of the Dean's Council. 2019-2020 is a transition year. This is where we're headed. And the documents that you're reading are general guidelines. And each of the deans is going to be working with their faculty to determine, there are some definitions in there and things that have to be applied college by college. Specifically, any program that is being phased out and those students need to have these classes to complete their degree, we fully expect that those won't all meet the minimums, but that is, in this transition time, none of those policies apply. Everything we need to do to be able to honor our commitment to the students that are in those programs, those faculty will receive complete credit for that. Those courses will be offered so that those students can complete the line of study that they started here with. And that was in a meeting just today at 1:30, that all of that was clarified.
I just think it's disingenuous to point to a document as if it were a Bible for this entire transition, and then nobody pointed to separate.
Nobody pointed it as a Bible.
No, this is not, this is a starting point, and this is a transition. And we will see how things work out. And as I said before, change, when we start implementing it, we will go ahead, these policies as they get implemented, they will change to the extent that implementation will illuminate problems or will illuminate complexities that we will then adapt to. There's still someone behind you? Yes?
Yeah, I don't feel like that last question was adequately answered. If you all continue to say things that contradict the document online, whose word do we take? Do we take your word here
Okay, can you explain where the contradiction is?
The classes won't be canceled. I think it's page 41 of the document, maybe it's 49. It specifically
Okay,
I think I can
says
answer that.
classes will be canceled.
I'll also defer to Professor Galoob, but in general, you have to realize that this document that you're reading, as if this now came from the president, that everything is going to happen, is not the way small adjustments occur in the academic session. So what do I mean? Just like Professor Manley said, the dean is my, not even direct boss, I have a chair, she's my boss's boss. And she can decide throughout the next year how to tweak it to make it fit exactly arts and science, because what happens in business or in law is a little different. These are general guidelines trying to bring, when we started the PPRC, every college and university looked very, very different, okay? And you're an arts and science student, you don't know what's going on in law. You don't know what's going on in the health college.
My mom's actually a professor in law, but thank you.
Okay, no, but I'm saying, I don't know how many students she had in a specific class, okay? Or in health sciences, or what the teaching load was.
There's one question in fact, can we go to that? Yes?
So how is TU going to honor students whose programs have been completely cut, like Women and Gender Studies student who just received an email about, I don't know, probably an hour ago, saying that that person's classes are not going to be offered anymore, like at all? So what's going to happen?
The master's program, the master's programs in women's and gender studies has had one student only. That's all they teach, and that it was meant to be when it was proposed. It was meant to be a very small program, and it's a 4+1 program. So the way the program is structured right now, we don't recruit from outside for the women's and gender studies. Students who are already here go into the master. So it's one student. And again, like I said, we will not cancel classes if you are in the program. As long as it takes, we will continue to offer those.
So let me get this as a
Yeah.
straight answer.
Uh-huh.
This student is going to be able to go through their whole master's program here at TU in Women
If
and
they
Gender
have,
Studies.
yes. At this point of time, isn't that your understanding as well? Yes.
The grad school says otherwise.
The grad school dean isn't here, but I will definitely clarify with her. That is what we have said repeatedly for undergraduate as well as graduate courses. Students who are matriculating this fall will all be able to complete their programs.
Okay,
No
what
one
if
is going to be turned away at this point of time. As of fall 2020, if these programs are still slated for elimination, phasing out and so on, at that point of time, no new students will be matriculating. As of now, students who are here will be able to take those programs and complete them. Okay, I'm losing count. Who was next? Did you get to ask the question?
When you speak about update, I think both of you actually referenced this, and I've heard referenced before that we would like assess things as they're going and change plans if they don't work out. What would the input? In what ways can students and faculty both have direct input to those changes? Yeah, that's a first question. Might be a follow-up after an answer.
I think that's an excellent question. I don't know if you've been aware, but we've been doing, we began, especially since the HLC visit last year, to do a lot of assessment, right? Have you noticed that we're doing assessment? Assessment includes your annual reports that Dr. Reed has been championing. And we ask in those reports, for example, for student narratives to be included. So we are developing, or there's a process of continuous improvement for these procedures as well, just like we've done for our curriculum in every program that we're doing, for our, what we do things that you're not aware of, for example, tenure and promotion procedures of the professors, for teaching loads and so on. There's a continuous improvement process, and students and faculty will be involved as we form the documents.
Okay, I apologize. One of the reasons why I asked for these questions in advance was precisely because the idea was to go through these. If you put in your questions in advance, I don't want to deprive the people who went to the trouble of sending these questions. So let me go through these questions and then I'll take additional questions. I'm sorry, I'm the one who ruined the whole format. So I'm going to go through the questions now. When will the new class size minimums go into effect? I think we've answered that. I transferred to TU from OU. It is the faculty at TU and the small class sizes which have kept me here. Many of my upper level courses have been below the new minimums, and this has allowed for discussions driven by student interest and for more feedback on writing and thinking from the professors. Do you expect students to receive the same quality of education in larger classes? If so, please justify your answer. And I think we answered that. We are going down for engineering, natural sciences, and arts and sciences. We don't have the problem of huge classes. Our classes are already pretty small. Stephen?
I think one of the hard things about this whole process is that there is an impression that the work of people whose programs are affected by these changes is not valued. That you might feel that way, and that the people in those programs might feel that way. And that is a deep regret of mine. Like, I want to tell every single person in this room that they are valued, and that I've taught some of you, right? You know that I live this, and everybody on the stage lives this too. The entire point of all of this is to put us in a position to help you more.
Why didn't you ask for our input then?
Oh,
Yeah.
well, let me finish what I'm saying. This, as Dr. Bellmaker said, is a process. It is a process that this university has not done really for a very long time. And that it's a process that we have to do going forward. And going forward, there will be multiple opportunities for you to make your voice heard. And for your faculty, the faculty that value you and whom you value, to make their voices heard too. I think that it's important that we not conflate the decisions that we made with a disregard of your value, because you are valued.
Forgive me, but the issue that I still have is...
Please don't jump the queue. If we have a queue, let's follow that.
He had his hand up earlier.
No, we're going by the questions. I'm sorry.
My only fear is that it's already been 30 minutes.
I will stay afterwards and talk with any person who wants to
I've got
talk.
class, actually I have the class in here, so that's not possible.
So we are always available for you. We will schedule
Yeah,
another
I'll give you my
forum where
email
we can
address.
answer. We want to answer every question. But these are people who already asked those questions, so we'll go through
Why
this.
can't we have more than an hour?
I'd like for him to be able to.
I'm sorry?
As someone who submitted a long list of questions that are waiting currently, I would
Okay.
like for him to go ahead and be able to.
It's just my own...
That's not how this works.
A lot of it, well, the impression was that this would be a conversation. Not like you standing up there with a list of questions and then lecturing us, because frankly, I've got classes for people to lecture me. My only point is, I'm not trying to personally attack any of you. My only point is I'd rather have this be a conversation. While I appreciate the people that did submit questions beforehand, and that's fantastic. But like I said, it's been 30 minutes and we've only gone through like 5 questions. And so I really want to tackle the bigger questions that we may not be able to get to. Like, for an example, what is the ideal faculty composition for each of these divisions? So we're talking about rigor, we're talking about standing, we're talking about people. For an example, Provost Levitt yesterday in our meeting discussed that employment and advanced degrees are the 2 primary things that the agency is looking at. As a political science student that is looking to move on to graduate school, it scares me, at least to some degree, that the political science department, as an example, already doesn't have several things covered that might be useful for when I'm applying to a graduate school. The fear with creating these divisions is that you might not expand these, or when you do expand them, it might be based on marketability rather than the virtue and the idea of a faculty.
Okay, I'm a political science professor.
Sure.
Let me answer that question, and I already told you I've been here 31 years.
Absolutely.
So that is how things change. And again, I'm a political science student who went through graduate school, and here I am. When I came to the University of Tulsa, the political science department, and I think one of the emails circulating around makes that point as well. The political science department offered one specialization and one specialization only: political theory and political philosophy. I was the first individual, because of a Ford Foundation grant, who was hired to offer the non-Western part of the curriculum, because up until then it was all Western, political philosophy and Western civilization oriented. I was the first one, and I offered a number of courses because I'm from India. I have expertise. I'm a China specialist. I offered those courses. It is over a period of time that we added on these other specializations. Those students who graduated in those days when the political science department was specializing in political theory and political philosophy did not have any problems going to graduate school. They did not have. Professor Denise Dutton is a graduate of this institution, of the political science department. She directs your honors program. She went to Princeton. So this was a political science department with one specialization, and that's it, and it didn't hurt the students. If you have a quality program, it doesn't matter. In fact, it dilutes that. Some people are actually going back and saying, why do we need to have all these survey courses cover every region of the world? That doesn't necessarily mean that your education will be a quality education. We have a very solid political science department, as we do many others. And what will help you going to graduate school, and my colleagues here will help you answer that as well, is the commitment of your faculty, the expertise of your faculty to guide you in your graduate school search. And their recommendations and their connections will help you. It's not whether this college or this political science department offers every specialization that is needed. I came from the University of Michigan with over 35 people in the faculty of political science, but that doesn't mean that this university needs to do that. This is not University of Michigan. This university has its strengths, and what we try to do is get the best faculty for our students, and that's what we will continue to do.
I just want to say, I don't know if people know my background. I did an undergrad in archaeology and psychology. My PhD is in biology. In a totally different university, a completely different college, a completely different discipline, if you want. Okay? I did an interdisciplinary PhD. I did a postdoc at a small university that nobody's heard of called Harvard in anthropology, even though my degree's in biology. And then I got a job as a paleoanthropologist. So it depends what you do, not what the little letters say behind your name, whether it's a major or in philosophy, or if it says under the department or division of human behavior and biology, or under the Department of Political Science, or under law and philosophy. And you'll see that most of us, Professor Crunkleton is a lawyer. He sits in the Department of Chemical Engineering. He isn't, it's useful, right?
I've taught a political science course at this university.
Exactly. That's what makes TU special. And that's our, I don't want to say secret sauce, but I will say it. That's really what makes it special.
I'm going to take that question and then I need to go back to this if it's okay with you. Yes.
Thank you. So I was wondering, since there seems to be very little representation from our departments on the provost, I was wondering what are our opportunities to make amendments to this, because I realized that a lot of logistics of what came out are not very feasible for a lot of these departments. And I'm sure all of us would be satisfied if we would understand how these adjustments can be made, and how open are you to changing this program to fit problems that arise with some of the things that you said in your statement.
So, I mean, especially in the part of the document that is reimagining academics at TU, the 1920 year is set aside as a year for planning. We have some working groups that have already been started, and we've kind of opened up an invitation for more people across campus to participate in that. The 1920 would be a planning year. The year following would be kind of a soft implementation, with year 3, these things really being solidified. So that part of the document, when we start thinking about the reimagining our academic structure here, is very much, I mean, it uses the word vision, and that's intentional because this is an imagination of where we're headed, with a lot of details still to come. And so there will be relatively small groups, but those groups will also be seeking feedback from a broader audience. I'm sure you're aware that the Tulsa Curriculum Review Committee, they're looking at revising our core general curriculum, and I know they held focus groups almost the entire fall semester. I forget how many hundreds of people they had participate, but they had a lot of broad participation. So I know that those working groups will be soliciting lots of input from groups across campus. So that does have really an implementation phase in that part of it for sure.
Thank you. Let me go through a couple of questions quickly, and then we move to a new cluster. The hosting of the University of Tulsa of multiple prestigious literary journals, JJQ, Tulsa Studies in Women's Literature, are a major draw for potential graduate students in the English department. How will these publications be affected by the proposed changes? No effect at all. They are now in the College of Arts and Sciences, and all of those programs, all of those journals will continue. We are proud of those journals, and including the student journal, Stylus. None of the journals are affected by this. According to the university website, TU research isn't limited to science or engineering. It's encouraged amongst literature scholars and future CEOs. Discovery is a lifelong pursuit and is at the heart of what we do at TU. If the announced changes occur, how will the university be able to encourage the pursuit of discovery in the cult areas of academic research? So one of the things that I want to emphasize in this move from departments to divisions, typically, not typically, it depends on the university, if a department goes away, there is then the possibility that the faculty are not needed in that particular department. With the division approach, it doesn't matter that a particular program is being eliminated. Those faculty are now part of a division. They will offer courses in the general curriculum. Theater faculty will offer courses in the general curriculum. We have a thriving film studies program. We have an alum right now on campus who's on my board of visitors, Julius Tennant. You may have met him. He's married to Viola Davis. He's a theater alum, also a football player, for BFA 1979. And we have discussed these kinds of issues with people like him. We have a thriving film studies program, students interested in acting for film, direction for film, scene projection, scene design, and so on. If they want, will be able to take classes, and those faculty will be able, in an interdisciplinary framework, it is possible for all of those faculty to continue to do what they are doing and not be identified with a particular department that no longer exists. If you think that that's what would devalue them, they will not be devalued because they are part of a discipline cluster. Concerns about faculty. How many faculty members does the university foresee in each of the 4 broader divisions? I think we answered that. What the current composition is of those? No.
I don't think you answered
Okay.
that.
How many faculty members does the university foresee in each of the 4 broader divisions of arts and sciences? So all the current faculty who are now will be still here. No one's going away except if they want to, and if they retire. So all of those faculty, for instance, in the fine and performing arts, all of the faculty currently in music, all of the faculty currently in film, all of the faculty currently in art, School of Art, Design and Art History and Theatre will be a part of that. So typically, I think we were calculating between 20 to 40 depending on the discipline. Also, again, faculty now have the ability to go back and forth. Our newer faculty typically want joint appointments. And people like Stephen Gallup, for instance, he could well have a joint appointment in political sciences or a discipline of the social sciences or the humanities, and also be part of another one. So faculty can be part of 2 disciplines or 2 disciplinary clusters or 2 divisions, and there's nothing really, there are more opportunities for faculty. So it's not a question of how many people in a single division, that depends on the number of disciplines that are going into it, but it also means that faculty may have affiliation with more than one division. Anyone want to add to that?
Well, one thing that I might add too is, I teach a course in sustainable energy and alternative energy development, and I'm doing a study abroad course. In 3 weeks, we're going to France, where I will probably be in tears when I get back, but whatever. So I have students from arts and sciences that can take that. If I'm trying to market that and get that out to you guys, maybe you guys might want to take it. With the division, it's a little easier because I can say, we have a cluster of faculty members who are interested in environmental sciences, environmental technologies, or environmental policy, or environmental activism, whatever, right? It's a little easier to be able to just communicate across the college and across the university.
Why wouldn't you just cross-list the course? It's on self-service.
It's not that easy. Here, many departments reject cross-listing because they're so small and are afraid of losing their majors. That's just, this is a trend nationwide, where as departments get smaller, the food goes away and you start getting a lot more hungry.
The same majors that were already closing out anyways?
No.
No.
Let me address one aspect of the question, which is the research component, and the idea that we are about pursuing research excellence in the cold areas. The way that we have conceived of the teaching loads, which I understand for you guys might not seem like that big a deal, but for the faculty, this is a very big deal. We are setting these up to incentivize faculty to engage with students as not just as part of their generosity, not just if a student asks, but to do this as a core part of their job. My students, I worked with my students this past year. We got 30 people out of prison. Governor Fallon commuted 30 people's sentences. Over 850 years of sentencing was commuted because of the work that my students and I did. This year we're going to get 250 or 300 people out of prison. Right? This is the kind of cool stuff that we can do here. And the goal in all of this is to incentivize and to reward faculty for doing cool things and changing the world and publishing papers and supervising independent research with their students.
Will the university commit to maintaining current faculty, including providing ample time and resources for research opportunities? Yes. After being restructured into 4 A&S disciplines, will each discipline, for example, political science versus sociology, and this is versus, that's what's written here, retain departmental autonomy, especially in regard to hiring faculty and determining course offerings? Now, to the extent that departments have autonomy in hiring decisions and determining course offerings, that will not change, but those kinds of decisions typically are not within the department. We look at the college, we look at what the needs are, we look at what the needs are for the various programs that the college offers, the first seminars, the AS 1001, the block courses, the general curriculum, and so those kinds of considerations will continue to be a part of the reckoning as far as, or part of the consideration and the deliberation. We're looking at, we haven't really figured out how we're going to be doing this transition because this is still a ways away, and also this is the point at which we get the input of faculty. So the idea is that there will be a sort of faculty lead who will decide in terms of curriculum how the major program requirements will be met and how the hiring needs can be presented. Every department, even now, needs to present a justification. And I, as the dean of the college, and then people who I report to, have to decide how to balance those interests. We have finite resources. In a perfect world, we'd give every department every position they want, but that's not how it works. We have to weigh a whole lot of different considerations. Okay.
So, quick suggestion. Since we're running low on time and you have these all typed up anyways, perhaps you could write out answers to them and send an email out with the written answers and open it up to student questions.
Markham is developing FAQs that will be part of the website, but to the extent, some of these are probably more detailed than what would be there. So I don't know if you...
With respect to the class that's supposed to be happening in here afterwards, I'm actually in that. The professor postponed the class about 45 minutes so that we would have time. So would it be possible for anyone who can stick around? I know that the dean, you have a meeting after this, but for anyone who can stick around to answer questions, would it be possible to honor that professor and what he did to allow for this forum?
Sure, we can do that. Why don't I just quickly look through this, and maybe the ones that I can answer, I should go ahead and answer, and then the others that are more general and people can answer, they can do that. Will the university make the commitment? I make that commitment on the part of the college, not so much the university, which will honor what I want to do in this instance, I think. Will the university make the commitment that courses in each respective discipline will still be taught by the experts in each of their fields after the ANS college is reorganized? Again, I do think we've covered this. All of your professors who are willing to stay will be doing what they have always done, offer the classes in their areas of expertise. But with this reorganization, we are able to offer you more possibilities. Team-taught courses, interdisciplinary courses. Professor Kirsten Oles, who is who teaches in art history, she's looking at, she's chairing the curricular review committee for the general curriculum, and that's where we will be looking at all of the new offerings that we can offer to you as well, that will make the curriculum much more modern and much more relevant to students who are here now and to students who will be matriculating. My concern is that classes in my discipline after these changes will just be broadly taught by social scientists. We are all social scientists. My colleagues here are social scientists. We all have our areas of expertise, but we also have related interests. Where we can collaborate, we will collaborate to offer you more options. Where we have our specific area of expertise, we will continue to offer that, and so that's not going to change. One of the things that we want to emphasize again and again is that you will not see that much of a change in terms of the curriculum, in terms of deletions. You will see additions in terms of all of these creative possibilities that will now be made possible by the kind of divisions that are being envisaged. Okay, I'm going to leave the PPRC, some of those questions. And then see if there's anything else that I can answer. How much will it cost to rebrand TU if we move away from the liberal arts program and small class sizes? We are moving away from the main things that attract many students to this university. So one of the things that I really want to emphasize as dean of this college is that we are not doing away with the liberal arts. The liberal arts include the arts and humanities, the social sciences, the natural sciences, biology, physics, chemistry, geosciences, mathematics. The liberal arts include all of those. So when we say that engineering and natural sciences is a college that's important and is attracting students, it doesn't mean that the liberal arts are being negated. There's another way in which the liberal arts are moving, if they have not been, in terms of perception. They are right now front and center. The reorganized Henry Kendall College Henry Kendall College has the university studies that is a part of Henry Kendall College. That university studies program is what will now receive every student coming into this university. It will not be students going into engineering and natural sciences, into Oxley, into CCB, or coming into arts and sciences. Every student now will matriculate into the Henry Kendall College of Arts and Sciences. And that is where we will own the general curriculum, which every student at this university has to do. The TURP, the Global Scholars, the Honors Program, all of that, and this is how it used to be. Honors used to be an Arts and Sciences, it is still taught by Arts and Sciences faculty, but all of this will be in the Henry Kendall College of Arts and Sciences. So every student matriculates here, and let me explain to you how this will help incoming students, and may have helped you if we had this kind of a plan before. Right now, when you have a student come into mechanical engineering or chemical engineering, and then they decide after 2 years that they want to transfer, because of the kind of requirements that they have, they take many of their required courses in the first and the second year. In College of Arts and Sciences, we try to be done with most of our things in the first 2 years, and so our students have fewer problems moving from one discipline to the next one. In the case of students moving from a college like engineering and natural sciences to arts and sciences, if they move after the third semester or the fourth semester, they are really in trouble in terms of graduating.
I did that in my fifth semester, and I'm going to graduate on time. I can graduate next semester.
But you must have been taking arts and science courses, right? Or
I took
have you
whatever
managed to
courses I
graduate without taking any arts and sciences
Which
courses?
was the great thing. I could take whatever
That's
courses
exactly,
I
yeah, but you are a minority. We see, this is
I
about.
was also ahead in my arts and sciences, or my engineering and natural sciences courses. as
Yeah,
well. By
so you
almost
may
an
be a
entire year.
minority, and I'm very glad for you. Most students, however, are not in that position. Students come in with AP, students come with IB, they come in with sophomore status, and they have already cleared the general curriculum. The average student does not have that advantage. The average student comes in and then has to go through the general curriculum. In this way, they will be able to do this and then decide what they have to do. And this will make it a lot easier for those students. We all have to think about the whole. All of us as individual, all of us have individual, sort of balance sheets and programs, and some of us are ahead, some of us are not, some of us are in the middle. The college and the university has to think about the university as a whole, and this is something that does help the great majority of students.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
So what you're saying is that you're going to take away many of the majors in arts and science, but you're going to require arts and science to be spread through all of the majors more. So you're saying that engineers and every other major will have to take more arts and science, or just...
No, it's the general curriculum, the way in which, the sequence in which the students take courses at this point of time differs across colleges. So, for instance, when students come into engineering and natural sciences, they take some of their major courses because those are the prereqs that build up. And they spread their general curriculum courses through the 4 years. And so transferring sometimes becomes more difficult for them. And I do want to go back to that earlier point you made about majors going away. Tell me which majors are going away. There are a few majors that are going away. But one of the things that I've emphasized again and again is that most of the majors are not going away. We will continue to offer most of the majors that we are offering at this point of time. They are not going away. And so that's not changing at all.
I was just going to add that having one place where our freshmen come is a goal, because we want to have a person whose primary responsibility is overseeing that general curriculum and making sure that students from every part of the university have the amount of attention, so that we're maintaining their flexibility as long as possible, so that you're getting the core requirements that will support you should you choose health, should you choose engineering, should you choose sociology or political science, or a bachelor's in fine arts. We're trying to have that holding place and have someone overseeing that, because a big part of where our university wants to do even better is in our ability to retain students from their freshman to their sophomore year and their sophomore to their junior year. And so when our students enter immediately into the business college or the engineering college, you have someone overseeing that freshman to sophomore experience that's also overseeing our PhD students. University Studies is going to give that general curriculum and our students at the point of entry someone whose job it is to oversee that educational experience, because we want students who choose TU and come here as freshmen then to hold over to be sophomores and juniors and to support them in all of those transitions, and to give a central place and someone to oversee that part of your education. Right now it happens, but it happens all over campus, and we're trying to pull that together to provide one unifying experience for all of our university studies. That's the academic side. The companion side of that is our Student Success Center that pieces will start opening soon in Hardesty Hall, where you have one place to go, where our career services will be, our Center for Student Academic Support. So this is designed so that we have kind of pulled those things together. All of these things exist here. You guys are resilient. You've been able to find the services you need. But the students that didn't make it from their freshman to their sophomore year, we're trying to make all of those services and all of that support easier to find and more available and accessible.
Did you want to take it? It's 6 o'clock, I'm going to go.
Do you want to just, do you want to do a queue? I mean, is this, do you want to do?
I do want to promise you, I will send you written responses for the questions I have, and we will try to get those answers for you. And again, I have an open door policy. If you have questions, please do come. And I'm happy to do another session if you should need one. We want you to have the information you need. We want you to have the clarification you need. Thank you again.
Thank you.
We'll go back to the front. So no, the person in front of you had their hand up, I think, before. Yeah.
So, I have a question about the reimagining of TU and TU's
Please stand up.
I'll stand up.
Thank you.
We just want to hear you better.
No, that's fine. I have a question about the reimagining of TU's identity, and that no longer includes TU as not only being a teaching university, but a researching university. I have not yet heard how the disproportionate impact on graduate students and this new structure impacts the ability for our professors to continue to do the great research that they do. That's including larger class sizes, larger teaching requirements, lack of graduate students, lack of people being able to help teach their classes. Does that mean that you no longer want to be a top-notch researching institution?
Excuse me, I'm just going to walk.
I'll take that one.
So sorry.
You know, I think research is very complicated in the sense that I do my best research, and I have some students here that have done Turk with me. I have students that have come with me to Israel and excavated, and these are undergraduate students, and they've done an excellent, excellent job. I have excellent grad students that are doing wonderful, wonderful work. The work that I do is what makes me happy when I get up in the morning, and be a top-notch researcher is being able to interact with students. Now, I do not care, and that is true whether they're PhD students or master's students or undergraduate students, as long as they show up and do the work and are very passionate about it. And I can tell you that I believe that my work is not going to change from a research perspective. I can't speak for anybody.
I think it's also important to point out that there's been a committee that's looked at research, and there are some recommendations that have not all been shared that plan to be implemented that will help with that as well. There was a separate committee that looked just at research on the campus. And another point is, in many of the cases where graduate programs were cut, where we just had a few students, our concern was that faculty were spread too thin. And in many of the reports with narrative from faculty department reports, that was a common thing they said. So that faculty member cannot do their research if they are spread too thin to adequately help graduate students, because graduate students have different needs than undergraduate students.
But they also are largely responsible for helping teach those students, helping run those labs, helping do the analysis that only they are qualified to do to help those professors do the best research that they can do. So I'm not sure how any of those answers account for that disparity.
And if we're spreading our faculty too thin now, I don't really understand how increasing class sizes is going to make that better.
Remember what Dr. Misra said, the dean said, it is not the class sizes within this college. The class sizes are very different across the university. And the problem is, she indicated multiple times that it was not necessarily going to up your class sizes, because there was very little difference between the maximum right now in arts and sciences and where we're going. What we're looking at is places where they have 150, and we don't want that to continue to happen. We don't want those faculty and those students to be in that situation. And we will hire people to teach labs. We are not asking faculty to do research and take over labs for TAs. That is not the intent at all.
You know, I think that the optimal job for a PhD student is not to help the professor. The optimal job for a PhD student is not to teach labs for the professor. The optimal job for a PhD student is to get paid a good wage, not a minimum wage or sub-minimum wage, to do their own research and not their professor's research. And what's happened across the United States and across the world is that we have been treating, not we TU, professors a lot of times treat our graduate students like cheap labor. And that is not right. It's not right socially, it's not right ethically, and not right morally. And I would like to see every one of my graduate students doing their own work and not my little work on something that's not of interest to them, to help them.
I don't see how the restructuring addresses that problem. I mean, like, that's nice that that's your concern, but I'm not sure that this restructuring addresses.
Well,
So yeah, let me address that point, because I think that is a really crucial point. So right now, we have a lot of very large, I mean, it varies across disciplines in the university, but there are many disciplines, there are many departments where the introductory classes are taught by people who are full-time teachers, who are not tenure stream faculty, and those are very large. And the faculty at, the tenure stream faculty teach upper division courses that are very small, that are really only for majors. The idea is to change, to basically flip that, to have the tenure stream faculty teaching students at a much earlier point in their educational experience, and to bring their expertise and research to students as like part of the introductory experience that students have in those areas. So for some people, this will mean teaching more students in a semester. For others, it will mean teaching far fewer students in a semester. It's hard to say because like this affects very differently, different faculty in different parts of the university. But I don't think there's a uniform effect.
Does that answer your question?
No, but there are more questions.
Okay, no, but I just want to say, right now, graduate students, so the university pays X amount of dollars, let's say for the sake of argument, $10 for all the grad students that we have teaching assistants slots available for them, okay? We can't afford those $10. So one option is to decrease the salary for all the PhD students, but keep the same amount of PhDs. Another option is to cut a few PhD assistantships and cut the program, and then be able to raise the salary for the rest of the students.
Are you raising the salary for the rest of the students?
This is something that we're hoping for, yeah.
Yes, that's the plan. That's a plan.
That are going to bring in their own funding.
This is part of the research task force recommendations that
Yes.
Dr. Stanton was talking about.
Yes. Yes.
So the hand all the way in the back.
Hi. I think misinformation has been a huge problem with this entire process. And my main question was, I've seen today a lot of people who have quoted the documents that we've been given, quoted the statistics that we've been given, quoted the solutions that we've been given, and your answers have been, no, that is not happening. So my question is, what documents should I look to, or what information should I look to feel safe about what's happening with the university?
So that's an excellent question. What I would say, at least regarding the university-wide policies document, is that you should read the entire document. Because please let me finish what I'm saying. The document clearly indicates, and I mean clearly indicates, that these are recommendations, right? That it is not the PPRC's job to set policies to directly govern the way that colleges do their job, right? None of us wants to be the super dean of anything. These are recommendations to prevent significant inequities that exist within and across colleges, right? And
there have been. And I think the answer to that, the answer is you need to talk to your dean. You need to talk to the respective dean, not to individual faculty members. Talk to the dean.
All right.
She's given her availability.
Thank you. I wanted to address something that's very concerning for me. I think a lot of good faith has been lost between everybody on stage and everybody not on stage. And the reason I say that is because a lot of the language that I've seen come out of this commitment has not particularly aligned with some people. I'm a Native student. I'm a council member for ET Indigenous Society. We're used to looking at what it's like to be in a small portion of the population, period. Where one thing, one student really matters. Especially when you come from a population where only 5% get to higher ed. Compared to nationwide, which is like 17 or 20. So our voices are already diminished. There's been a lot of concern because I'm a council member, I've talked to several Native students. And one of the troubling things is that we keep hearing only a small portion of you are going to be affected. It's only going to be 6%. There's only one student. Those things are damaging type language. And I think one of the reasons that when you say, social justice is a main concern and diversity is a main concern, those sort of things don't line up with diverse populations who are used to hearing that type of language used against us and to minimize our voices and degrade our lack of importance. And I know what you said, and I respected that. And I don't think that the intent here is bad, but I do think that's developing is a sort of toxicity, like almost a war. And as a person who's always advocating for peaceful solutions and peaceful resolutions, I think that the request that somebody toxic language about percentages and about only minor students are getting affected, that needs to be considered from a perspective that how damaging it is to minority students here. When there was recent poll from the MRC lately, which is the Multicultural Resource Center, most of the programs that are being affected are also most of the programs that women and minorities are enrolled in. Minorities that are continually being affected. And when I'm like I said, I'm graduating senior. One of the reasons I really respected TU was the Native Law program. That has a huge effect on my community when Supreme Court justices are ignorant about Natives. And the less lawyers that get trained up to deal with this kind of law is devastating, not for me as a student, it's devastating for me as a Cherokee woman who has children that are going to be affected by that. And Cherokee children are responsible for so much in our populations. So these are larger concerns. And I think that it would be helpful if some of that respect was sort of reestablished from your panel, because I see a lack of it. And I also want to talk to my other students because I feel like your anger, and don't get me wrong, I'm extremely angry too, but we need to reserve that so we can talk to each other. And those are the things that I want to say. If you could develop a plan for that, it's a concern of mine, a really deep one. And I have been asked to draft a letter to you all that I hope to get to you this week, stating those concerns on behalf of the council. And I feel very desperately sorry that this has happened. Another note that's been very brought to me by many students, not just Natives, is that the timing of this is so devastating. They have insomnia, and I'm not talking about just Native students. These things need to be addressed by the people on the stage. And ma'am, I appreciate most of your comments, I do. But when you talk, you sort of flaunted your degrees at people who are still trying to earn theirs, to talk down to them. I don't mean to single anybody out, I'm not trying to point wrongs here. I'm saying that there's things we can do to address these issues that can kind of defuse the situation, and as leaders and people in authority, please take them.
Very well said, thank you so much. As of now, I think a point that you said was that you can't assume. You don't know my background. I am Native American as well. I am not part of a tribe, but I do have some Native American blood. I am in an all-female group. I am the only non-tenured faculty member up here.
Are you a student?
No, but I have been a student. But what I was going to say, I have an arts background as an individual. It doesn't help sometimes to say that it wasn't our intention. And some of that language that has been so offensive about the 6% did not actually come from this board. But that was excellent feedback, and I appreciate it, and I know that I will be as careful as I can. And as hurtful as it's been to you, it has also been hurtful for people to say that I'm shady or that I don't care about the arts. I am a dancer by background. When I was an undergraduate, I was a dance person in the dance company at my undergraduate university. I have been in community theater. I was a pianist. I love many of the things that you all love about it and am passionate. So please don't assume that we don't value what we do. And saying that, I am also not a professional like many of you are striving to be. And I don't want to indicate that I have your experience or knowledge by saying I have those interests. But we do care. And I am very sorry for your feelings. I don't know that there's anything I can say or do that's going to make that hurt go away. But I liked your very specific suggestion about language, and I will be careful with my language.
I would also like to respond to 2 things. First of all, the truth of the matter is that 0 students are going to be affected. In the sense that, no, listen. Every student that's currently enrolled and has matriculated in fall 19 will get to finish their current degrees.
You are suffocating the theater department by not letting them use.
They will graduate.
Small programs.
They will graduate. So when we said 6%, we were referring to a number of students that would have come 3 years from now. Okay, these are the programs that were affected. But in reality, no student's losing their degree. No student is going to be thrown out without a degree, and everybody's going to be able to graduate. About what I said, I heard, and maybe I heard wrong, from the nice guy that's sitting next to you, that he was worried about his ability to get a PhD. And what I heard was that his ability to get a PhD or to go to grad school, okay, would have had to do with the fact that he doesn't have a very broad topics in political science at the university, and that would be diluted if we move into divisions. I heard that he's afraid that his degree from Tulsa will not be good enough to get into Harvard and Princeton. And his degree from Tulsa will not be good enough to get into Berkeley. And what I used my experience is to say that you can go to the top schools from very small degrees, interdisciplinary degrees that don't have that broad swath that you expect from the University of Michigan, for example, or if you come from an interdisciplinary background. I'm sorry if it didn't come across that way, but again, I think that, just like Suzanne said, we'll be careful with our language going forward.
I appreciate that feedback. You've had your hand up for a long time.
Yes, I have a very specific question that I would like to address to the chair of this committee. So on page 10 of the academic strategy document, not where it's talking about anything for the future or recommendations, but where it's talking about the process and how this was, how the committee came to their recommendations. It says that one of the sources of data in your comprehensive review is the program review reports, which are provided by the University Office of Assessment for undergraduate programs and by the Graduate School for graduate programs. When were those solicited? Were they all solicited from all the departments at the same time? And were they received by the committee before the committee finalized its decisions? If the document clearly states that they were used in the conclusions of the recommendations, were they all received from all departments before the recommendations were submitted on February 22nd?
So I believe you're referring to the fact that some of our undergraduate program reviews were undertaken this spring and have just now been completed. So those were not submitted to our committee. Our graduate school has conducted program reviews for at least the past 2 decades since our current graduate school dean has been in position. So they had historical program reviews. They do those on a 10-year comprehensive cycle with a 5-year follow-up, and those were all made available to us from the graduate program. Our undergraduate programs that have specific outside accreditation, which includes a number of programs in this college as well as ones outside of the college, they have continuous improvement and those reports available. Those were all shared with us. then we do have undergraduate programs here at our institution that we had not been conducting a regular schedule of program reviews on. Our university set up or I would say kind of reinforced our Office of Assessment, and those program reviews began in earnest in the spring of 18. So a handful, somewhere between 5 and 8, I would think, were completed in the spring of 18 that were available to us. Another set was completed in the fall of 18 that was made available to us. But all of those programs, there was a set that was conducted in the spring of 19 that have not, they will be turned over to us, but they have not yet been turned over because I don't believe they're finalized. So I think, an important thing to understand is that this is the first year. This committee will continue in perpetuity, and all of the program reviews on whatever cycle that they're done will be part of the input to this process moving forward. That given the timeline we were given and the way that lined up with our Office of Assessment, there was a handful of these program reviews that were conducted this spring that will roll forward to the next committee.
Was there any particular reason why the committee did not wait to finalize its recommendations?
Yeah, let me interject there. What this means is that for these programs, they had never done a review.
Yes, I'm aware.
And like ever. And the fact that they hadn't ever done a review means that they had never looked at their own offerings and asked, hey, is this like a good idea? Maybe we could do this better. What are we good at? What are we not good at? And to say, after having never reviewed your own program, well, we didn't submit our program review to this, is a little disingenuous. Now, I will also say that from each program, we solicited review information that they provided in a summary form that has basically everything that would be in the program reviews that they did.
With no fancy graphs.
We received from every academic unit, we requested a standardized, we call them academic unit data sheets that had 5 tabs where they submitted information to us, and we did receive that from every single academic unit directly to them.
From the chair. From the
Is
chair.
it not disingenuous to publish information stating that I come from the College of Engineering and Natural Science, and if you publish information saying you used something as a source when you didn't actually use something as a source or you didn't have that data, that can destroy your career. As someone who has been in multiple research labs, that's a serious thing to overlook, and I just want to state that
I'm sorry, but I'm not following what you're saying. The department chair sent us the sheets, and that was standardized. So you should be able to ask the department chairs for that.
I have talked to my department chair, and I've also talked to the department chair of the languages, and they feel, both of them have expressed to me that when they attempted to fulfill these reviews as was requested, they had in good faith that these reviews would be taken into account by the committee before the recommendations were made. And when this did not happen, and it comes into the report that this was part of the data reviewed by the committee before they made the recommendations, when that was not in fact the case for multiple departments. I think
Why do you think that we didn't take it into consideration? What's your evidence for that?
because they were not turned in or completed until April 1st.
No, all the document sheets that were sent to all the chairs, the chairs came back. We sent all our compiled data to the deans for correction for errors of fact, and the chairs again, and they came back.
Okay? His comment is about the program.
Okay, but the program review, as Professor Galoob said, really includes, if you look at it, have you seen a program review?
I have, actually.
Good.
The German department did 29 years ago.
Can I say something real quick? I am really sorry that everyone is so angry, and I know that doesn't help, but I want you to know that I genuinely am upset. I have served on this committee, have taken time away from my family for no extra pay, for no release of any of my duties, missed vacations, worked overtime. I'm here tonight away from my family because I do care. I don't know that there's any way that I can show that I'm going to be here. But one other thing I do want to say that's an important piece of this is that we were mandated as a university by the Higher Learning Commission
The
to create
deadline for that
this.
is December 2020.
No.
I've seen.
No, that's.
But I would be happy to
That's not
talk with you
accurate,
about these
sir. I'm
details
sorry.
outside,
Yeah.
but there are a lot of
You've
hands
got
here,
to,
and we have a
yeah.
very short.
But that's not accurate.
I have a question about, I feel like all of us here are mainly angry simply because we feel like we were not represented on this committee, and there are a lot of issues with how things are working out. We have questions. And since you state in your program that this is kind of a vision and you're still working on things, will we have the opportunity to have more representation and more say in how things change? Because we are very dissatisfied with how things are now. How much say can we have on how you proceed with this vision? And will we be represented better?
So I'll be brief. The 1920 year is the planning year, and working committees will be formed for that. And I am certain that part of what the working committees will do is to solicit feedback from focus groups similar to what's already happened, like the Tulsa Committee.
Which will include students.
I think we
And
probably
we are
have
open
about 2 more questions.
And we may be open to other
Can we get some questions from people who have not already? Yeah.
Emily?
So my question is specifically related to programs that were cut. I'm going to use the PhD in anthropology as an example because that's the one I know the most about. I want to know if there's a specific number, how you quantified what qualified as low enrollment. For example, the anthropology department has 15 PhD students. We are a new department. We've only been around for 7 years. The national average to get a PhD is 9 years. So you essentially didn't take into account that at this point in time, we shouldn't even have graduated anybody. We have one graduate officially when the data was received. She is now employed as an anthropology professor for the university. But on our sheet, it said we cannot talk about placement because there's only been one graduate. I don't think that's fair because I think technically our placement is 100%. And I will say that some of the numbers on that sheet were also incorrect. You didn't have the correct number of students enrolled in our PhD program. So I want to know how you quantify what counts as low enrollment to make the decision to cut a program like the PhD program.
If I could just, enrollment was one of our criteria. Our criteria included relationship to the mission, strategic plan, core functions of the university, financial sustainability, as well as the scholarship and community engagement of the academic unit. And then program by program, we did look at enrollment data, first-time students, total enrollment, number of graduates, wouldn't apply to a graduate program, but for undergraduate programs, number of minors, then as well as student outcomes, retention, graduation rates, and placement rates. And so I say all of that to say there's no one number. We can't say like, here was the line. If that had been the process, then it wouldn't have been the investment of time that we put in. And we were asked to do this by the institution because as faculty, we have a history with the academic workings of the university. And we were asked to do this as opposed to consultants or, even university administrators to take the holistic view that we took. And so there is no this line. It was all the criteria, all the academic units, all the programs holistically considered by 2 separate subgroups of the PPRC that did it completely blindly, that then came together to reconcile this. And so, the answer really is the way that we did it. It was all dimensions, all units, all programs.
Okay, so then I want to add to that. I would like to know how we get that data that you're talking about, because we'd like to look at it.
And we tried, and they won't show it.
They won't give it to us.
So, just in the process so that you understand, everything that we looked at was provided by the academic units. The compilation of certain metrics that came from across campus, we compiled in what we called measurement summaries because we had to start giving names to things. We had so many different pieces of spreadsheets. And all of those were shared with the academic deans in December for fact checking, and they gave them to their department heads. I personally worked back and forth with many department heads to make sure that the cells represented, and it was a 5-year look back, and then those were available for the campus, the faculty and those people to make sure that what we were looking at is what they agreed to. But it is really, it's part of our, committee product, but we took the steps that we felt like we could put in place to make sure that the academic units agreed with the accuracy of what we were.
And I appreciate that. I'm just wondering how we can see that data is what,
I'm not
do you
certain,
know?
because our product has been turned over. I'm not exactly certain what all of those procedures are going to be going forward, but I want you to be confident that there was no hidden information. Everything that we looked at came from your academic units or was actually reviewed by them. And at this point, that's going to be all I can really.
I mean, I would go to your chair and ask him for the data. He has it. And I think one of the problems, and he reviewed it, and he wrote a SWOT analysis, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and among other things. And Professor Stromberg completed it. We took it into consideration very thoughtfully, just like we did everybody else. And I want you to think I'm just signaling out anthropology. The dean looked at it, and then he had an opportunity to look at the data again. So when you say the numbers are incorrect, that should be referred to the chair and the dean.
Okay.
So are we doing one more question, or are we?
We have 15 minutes until the class in here is
Okay, I have no
scheduled to
problem
start.
saying 15 minutes.
Okay, so maybe we can do your
I'm
question.
sorry, I know, first of all, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. I know many of you have other obligations that you were supposed to be at earlier. So I think it's okay, just for respect for everybody on the panel, could we take one more question, and then any question that you all have, please. First of all, I'm Bill Handy. Many of you emailed me earlier. I compiled, and my team helped compile the list. Email me any more questions you have. We'll make sure that those questions are all answered. But out of respect for this team, I'd like to just take maybe one more question and then let you guys go home. So,
Diane, you have a question?
Yeah, I do have a question. So my main question is that how do you guys plan to sustain the theater department when we rely on the steady influx of students to do what we do, and also to give us the quality of education that we are promised from this university when we can't put on productions because we don't have that steady influx of students, and also how taking out the theater department completely will plan to go into this whole like branching off thing, because we need specialized things to get a degree in theater, and even if you do a specialized degree or like try to make it, as Dean Misra was saying, there's no way that you can really do that with theater, as we have to have a production, because most of our skills come from practical practice, and practical like being acting, being building sets, being doing light plots, making light designs, and doing things of that sort. And also why I don't understand how you can phase out a theater department the way that you guys are saying.
So, I mean, just to be real clear, that our charge and what we have earnestly tried to fulfill is program review. And when you have to do this much in 1 year, we understand it's a lot of change. What I can tell you is our work is passed off to the administration then for implementation. And I have heard specifically from your dean and from the provost that they are planning to sit down with your faculty and work out a way that this plan can happen. I was in a different meeting when your dean was present today and with some of the notable alums that are here on campus, and they are creatively thinking of ways to make sure that we can fulfill his education obligation. It will look different, and I understand that, but part of our task was what we tried to fulfill in turning over this report. We're glad to continue to offer our insights and what we learned as the implementation phases out, but I can tell you, I've heard from the immediate administrator above you as well as our provost that they're committed to sitting down with your faculty. Your faculty asked this exact same question when we had a Q&A with them last Thursday, and I've heard that same answer in multiple forums. As faculty across the university are not in a position to be able, I mean, I'm super respectful, and, you know, I have a lot of admiration for what you're doing, but I wouldn't know, I mean, all those different details, I totally believe that. I just can tell you the people above you, this is the answer I've heard multiple times. I wouldn't be in a position to know how to deliver on that for you.
again, any questions that you have, please email her or myself, and make sure that those answers are sent back and we'll publish them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.